Her name is Denise Prudhomme. Say it again. Her name is Denise Prudhomme. Denise Prudhomme, 60 years old, died in Arizona working for Wells Fargo in Tempe, Arizona. She clocked in at work on the 16th of August, and they didn't find her until August 20th. And somehow, on her third floor office, they did not know she was gone. And it took smelling a foul odor for somebody to say something.
Even that didn't work at first.
Yeah. And whether it's the bank staff, the custodial staff, all the people who went in and out of the building, and they could not acknowledge Denise till 4 days later, is one of the worst things I've ever heard in my life. There's so many ways we can go here, but all I want to first say is we will never forget Denise. Never, ever forget Denise. And the power of acknowledging people no matter what, whether you are high status or low status in this world, whether you are of a high class or low class, no matter where you come from in this world, no matter your race, your sexual orientation, or whoever you are. Most of us are good people in this world, and there's definitely been some bad people who, you know, justice has served them. But for everybody else, acknowledge them, man. And I can't believe this happened, bro. I can't believe it. I'm so sorry to the Prudhomme family. I'm so sorry for Denise. And if there's anything I can get out of this story, it's the power of acknowledging someone can go a long way. And please, wherever you are, Denise, I hope you are in peace. I want to first start with that and then go to the next part. Ryan, what do you have to say reacting to this?
I mean, so there's been a whole lot of conversation about this. We'll cut into that a little bit, but I think something important to say. I don't know Denise. I don't know her hours. We know that she clocked in at 7 a.m. on a Friday. That might be normal. That might be early. Um, Obviously, we talk a lot about the coworkers not noticing, and we'll get to that in a second. But Denise presumably had family and friends whom also didn't notice. And so I don't know if that to me, if I had to guess, and this is all speculation, so I apologize. This is someone who was probably very invested in their work. And so therefore a lot of time in the office is not out of the, out of the realm of possibility. Your employer, it can even be good employers, by the way, nice employers. I like my employers. They don't, you're not their family. You're not really even their friends. They don't care about you. And I think younger people, obviously, younger people are at less risk of, dying of natural causes at work, but younger people need to hear that because too often our generation in particular puts work as our whole identity. Who we are is what we do. And so we spend all of our time doing it. And it's important to remember when things like this happen that no, your job, your place of employment, where your office is, that is not who you are. It will never be who you are because the people who matter are never going to be in the building. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's probably that's like top line. But I'm seeing obviously there's been a lot of calls like saying this should never happen again. And so I'm looking and we don't usually do this. But I'm going to do this. So there's an article on Inc.com. It's an opinion piece by someone named Suzanne Lucas, who is a human resources consultant. We don't usually trash people, but I'm going to. This article is absolutely trash. Um, the question being posited is what could be changed to prevent this. This is a tragedy, yes, but nothing can really be done about it. They point out that if someone died at work at the end of the day on Friday, it would be very much not, you know, uncommon for it to take until Monday afternoon for someone to notice. Um, that's kind of the main, honestly, that's the main point that they're trying to make. They're saying that there's no policies that really could be enacted to change this. Um, and so a hard-hearted approach is best, essentially, to chalk this up as a tragedy and move on. And honestly, lady, you jokingly call yourself an evil HR person in your byline. And good news is, as advertised, you are in fact an evil HR person. Um, just a couple things off the top of my head. The building has 24/7 security. It's a bank. So somebody's working there. Why weren't they doing rounds? Why weren't they doing rounds? And I'm not saying that means you need a policy shift per se. If they're supposed to be doing rounds and the security guards weren't, obviously fire those guys and make sure that when you train the new people, they understand the importance of doing rounds. That's number one. Number two, we don't know when this happened on a Friday, but it happened at some point Friday after 7 a.m. No one spoke to Denise. None of her coworkers needed her. And I can answer that for you, Suzanne. Of course, none of her coworkers needed her. I work in an office. Matt's worked in an office. Most of our listeners have probably worked in an office. It's pretty common in 2024 to work in an office. I'll go whole days without speaking to a supervisor. Whole day. I'll go whole weeks with only having 3 or 4 words with the supervisor. Now, I happen to, the way that my office works, I happen to be with people most of the time. We share space, and so I have a great relationship with those people, but that's not everybody's office environment. So yeah, you can change that. There is a policy you can absolutely implement for your middle management team to make a conscious effort to see everybody every week. And I'm not saying, look, yes, obviously it could have happened where they talked to Denise Thursday before she went home for work, and they didn't talk to her Friday because they talked to her Thursday. I'm not saying this could have absolutely been avoided, but what I am saying is the idea that everything was hunky dory and this is just a weird thing is stupid. We all know that the office culture is broken. We all know that. Everyone who's ever worked in an office knows that the office culture. Anyone who's ever seen the movie Office Space knows that the office culture is broken. It's absolutely
Dude, it's
ridiculous.
crazy. That movie's
It's
25 years old and it's as relevant as ever.
it's ridiculous. Someone should have been speaking to them. It makes absolutely no sense. Why aren't the teams meeting more? Why aren't they doing more collaborative projects? People work better in groups. By and large, people work better. And honestly, socializing, not being stuck at a computer all day, probably helps with your mental and physical health. Not probably, it does. There's study after study that proves that human interaction is important. It's why we're seeing an education crisis in this country after years of isolation. It's why workers are seeing a mental health crisis after years of isolation. So the idea that isolating someone in the corner, security's not coming by, coworkers are not coming by, management's not coming by, the fact that that is considered normal to anyone like Susan is quite frankly disgusting. And so my hope is that people hearing this take those two things away from this. Number one is that your job is not worth dying for. And so if you are spending more time at work than anywhere else, that nobody outside of work would even know you're gone, just know that nobody within your office will know you're gone either. And that means your priorities are unfortunately misaligned. And then the second thing would be if you do have employees, if you're responsible for employees, you don't have to check in on them. Most people won't, but you're an asshole if you don't. Let's just put it bluntly, Suzanne. You're an asshole
Mhm.
if you don't check on your employees, if you're not constantly coming up with ways to engage with your team, both as people and as team members. So, both professionally and personally. If you can't manage to do that, then you shouldn't be in HR. You shouldn't be in management. You really shouldn't be speaking at all because I don't need to hear from another heartless person. The hard-heartedness of our country is well documented. We need less hard hearts. We need more open hearts and open minds. And maybe if we do that, then people like Denise wouldn't have had to go alone in their fucking office.
Yeah, dude. You I hope you get an award for what you just said when the podcast awards officially. That's
I
the one
doubt it.
award show.
I
But
doubt it, but
hey, it's award winning for whoever listens to that because you said everything literally perfectly, dude. You really did. And I commend you and proud of you for that. Um just acknowledge people. And yeah, if anything, this whole work culture teaches us. Obviously, we need an
I'm sorry.
employment
I have
to.
to say one more thing too about this ridiculous article. They make at the very end, and honestly, I just read it right now, and that's the reason I have to bring it up. Otherwise, I would have brought it up in a second. They make the comparison that we should be focusing on things that do matter, like, sexual harassment or training managers to manage performance, spending our time and resources on that because things like this can't be can't be avoidable. And at most, all it would have done is found the body faster. And can I say something as someone who has very recently lost a loved one? Finding that out faster is a hell of a lot better than not. And if you can't manage to care for your employees and teach about, and train on sexual harassment, if you can't walk and chew gum at the same time, then you're quite literally one of the dumbest people that I've ever met. And so anyone who subscribes to this, truthfully, like truthfully from the bottom of my heart, please resign. Resign tomorrow. Let other people, let younger people, let caring people,
Mhm.
let them take your job because you have absolutely no place in the modern work environment. It's that kind of thinking that's crushing the soul of the American worker. It's creating isolation. We have suicide rates higher than they've ever been in working class people, men specifically. It's absolutely asinine. I can't even believe that I just read that. I'm mad at myself for reading the rest of the article because now I will never not be pissed about what I just read. The idea, the audacity to say you have to choose between keeping people who are alive safe and caring for the people who work for you is insane.
It is very much so. We're not gonna forget you, Denise and Ryan. This is the best thing you said on the show so far.